Welcome to the Super Over. Jarrod Kimber here and Jon Norman as well. I suppose you can't go past Shubman Gill. There was a period of time in the middle of that innings where I was like, is he struggling? He just wasn't fluent or anything else. And then eventually he came through and it was a pretty good innings, albeit on a flat wicket.
Yeah, I've not always been totally on board with Shubman Gill.
You've not been aboard the Gill train?
No, I haven't. At number 3. Number 4, Shubman Gill.
Oh.
I'm in on that. That first 20
Numerology
balls,
is what we're talking
it's just
about.
something about the stars and the numbers. But essentially, I just thought, do you know what? I almost feel like he is so much happier captaining as a batter than captaining in the field, which kind of makes sense, right? He's not had a lot of captaining experience. I wouldn't be surprised if he hasn't slept a lot after day 5. I'm not even sure he was captaining at times at day 5 in Leeds. But essentially, what Shubman Gill knows how to do is score runs. This is not a fast pitch. This is not a pitch where essentially you're going to get the ball zipping past the outside edge all the time. Nothing's keeping low. Nothing's hurrying him up. He knows, essentially, no matter what plans are in place, he can bat at his own tempo. There's all the time in the world. It's day 1. There's no rush. Do you know what? He seemed happy. Well, he wasn't happy when Rishabh Pant was out, but apart from that, he seemed pretty happy.
Talking about being happy, I thought it was an interesting press conference this week from Chris Woakes. I thought there was... It felt like this might be my last game sort of thing, and I know it's not, but there was a lot of sort of retrospection. That was the Chris Woakes we've been waiting to see for a while. We haven't seen him. He's been bowling so slow. He's bowling quicker. He got good pace and bounce, but that opening spell was proper Chris Woakes. Yeah,
absolutely. It is often said about Woakes that he needs to have some overs under the belt. We had exactly the same situation in New Zealand where... he was a bit rusty in Christchurch for the first innings, a little bit expensive. Everybody's saying, there's no Broad and Anderson now. You're bowling overseas. You are the new ball bowler. You go, come on, Chris. We kind of been it before. And then by the end of the series, everyone's like, he was fine. He just needed a game. Same here. First innings at Leeds. Okay, Chris, it's a new ball. There's no Jimmy or Broady. You're going to have to do better than this. And then, of course, here we are today. I thought he was bang on. I think there was one misdirected ball which went down. I can't remember. There was one. Essentially, it was just spanked through the covers. I think it might have been Karun Nair. One half volley. That's what I'm trying to say. And it was like, he can actually bowl a bad ball. He just bowled a bad ball. It was the first one he bowled in about 5 overs. It's Chris Woakes, right? He's got a few overs under the belt, and we saw that today.
What did you make of India's team selection? It's weird, isn't it? It really is quite
actually,
weird.
It wasn't weird for me.
Is it beyond weird?
No, it's not even that.
Painful?
No. Well, it was a bit painful.
Are you going to say the answer, or am I just going to keep saying words?
Maybe both is going to happen. But essentially, it just reminded me of how England kind of used to be. India lost the game at Headingley, right? They should have won that test match.
Yeah.
And if they'd taken their catches, forget everything about that test match apart from the drop catches. If they take their chances, they probably do win that test match. Or certainly they don't lose it. Now, for me, if the team that is going to beat England, if you put a team out on the field for one test match, and then one test match afterwards, you change 3 players, and not just change 3 players, you completely change the makeup of the side. You drop your all-rounder. You bring in another all-rounder who doesn't replace that all-rounder. And I'm talking about Nitish Kumar Reddy here. He doesn't come in where Shardul Thakur was playing. He bats at 6. You change your number 3 after one test match, and essentially, at the same time, shortening the tail, to my mind, seemingly lengthening the tail, because suddenly it starts at 6 rather than 7 or 8. It's panic. It's kind of trying to...
But it also feels like they didn't take 20 wickets in the last test match, and their answer to that is to bring in more guys who are not specialist bowlers.
No, and it's about not losing a test match, and this is where there was just a depressive kind of like, I remember what this used to be like. England used to do this kind of thing. This is exactly, and it never ever worked. If you look at that first test match, they had big decisions to make. Sai Sudarshan was named at number 3. He was out for a duck. Karun Nair was brought back and played at 6. He made a duck. Shardul Thakur was brought in as the batting all-rounder.
Bowling all-rounder.
The bowling all-rounder.
Well, neither, but yeah.
And he did neither. 3 big decisions, right? Big decisions, and not one of them came off. And Krishna was going at 6.5 and over. So actually 4 big decisions. None of them came off. Now here we are again. So Karun Nair, I thought played fine at 3.
He probably,
it's fine, right? I'm not gonna say that wasn't, but you have just dropped Sai Sudarshan. Reddy is at 6. That has not worked. So again, we're kind of like, well, you only have so many decisions here.
You end up keep following mistakes too after a while. Where you're like, I don't think Sai Sudarshan was a mistake. He just didn't make any runs in the last game.
I'd pick Sai Sudarshan. Personally, if he's good enough to bat at 3 for India a week ago, then he wasn't out for a pair. He did score runs in the second innings. If he's good enough to bat there a week ago, I don't really think that's why he lost a test match.
Can I ask you something more serious? What did you think of Bryden Carter's face?
Yeah, I mean, it was Darren Gough. Goughy was back, right? Goughy was back, part of the talkSPORT commentary team, and he was on the field because he, of course, famously did the same thing, didn't he? Stuck his tongue out Ridley Jacobs as he ran into bowl against West Indies 25 years ago. The difference being that was day 5 of a draw and nothing was ever going to happen.
I've seen Jason Gillespie do it before.
Yeah.
There's a few bowlers who've tried stuff like that, but to be fair, Shubman Gill didn't want to face it.
No, it was a funny little
Face
moment.
it, get it? Because
Good. Yeah.
okay, so India's fight back and everything else we've seen here. It's just a slightly different day than Headingley, but there is an element, I think, of deja vu with the Headingley game.
Yeah, totally. I don't know, Jarrod, I don't think I've ever asked you this question before, but have you ever watched snooker?
Yes, like twice in
Right.
my life.
Well, I've watched a lot of snooker over the years. I kind of dip in and out. I used to love it in the 80s, and I watch it. It's zen. It just, doesn't matter what's happening. If there's snooker on, a cup of tea and I watch a bit of snooker and it just chills me out. Anyway, I sometimes, because you know how a snooker game starts, yeah, with all the balls in their positions, the reds and the black and the green, right? But I sometimes start watching a snooker match, or a frame rather, and I think to myself, I wonder if I've seen this exact same frame played out, before. Because there's only so many things you can do at the start, and it seems a very formulaic way, and they're all kind of... And then the frame gets underway, and then I forget all about it. I kind of was feeling a bit like that today. And, after day 1 of the Headingley Test, everybody was talking about Ben Stokes and winning the toss and deciding to bowl first. Nobody's talking about Ben Stokes doing the same thing today, understandably. But essentially... There was a couple of wickets before lunch, a couple of wickets after. It was kind of followed the same pattern as what we saw at Headingley. But just for me, it just feels like England are just sitting there like a cat that's caught a mouse and is just playing with it, basically. And it's just saying, it doesn't matter, really. You want, how many do you want this time? We'll give you 450 again? All right, we'll give you 500. We're still going to beat you.
I talked to Rory Dollard at one stage, and he was saying that it's like, it feels like we just need to simulate till the last day.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even saying that England would win, but he's just like, up until that point, we can moan about what England did, we can talk about India's team selection, whatever, but when it comes down to it, are England going to chase whatever total India put on or not? And that's kind of how it felt. And when they had to come back here, that's what I kept thinking about that. I was just like, okay, so they're going to get 450 to 500 maybe if they're doing well. And then it's like, but eventually it's just going to come down to what can England chase and how it goes from there.
Yeah, and it's kind of flipping Test cricket on its head again, because Test cricket is a curious game insofar that it's usually at its most exciting in the first couple of days, right? A brilliant Test match when everyone gets involved is when, of course, it goes deep in day 5 and all results are possible, yada, 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 and social media is ablaze with, well, it's the best game in the world, forgetting all the really boring ones. But actually, this has flipped it round, hasn't it? Because now, instead of enjoying the first test, the Test match being set up and all these kind of like conundrums, we're all like, yeah, if we could just, just skip to, midway point of day 4, maybe just after tea, England have put in 450. But hey, the world record.
There's a lot of people talking about how they keep winning the toss and bowling first. But the other thing I find really interesting is today they won the toss, they bowled first, and then they decided to bowl short and wide. Like, they do everything that is so weird when it comes to the way that they line up. It's just, It really is flipping Test cricket in many different ways. We'll be back on talkSPORT Cricket again tomorrow. It'll be what? Harmy, Goffey, Bumble, B, you, Manners.
Yep.
Have I named everyone? I've named a lot of people in that list, and anyone else who pops in as well. I will see you again for more Super over here on talkSPORT Cricket.